what I have found in my experience teaching math is a lot of students, if I write a mathematical expression on the board, they don't know how to like read it out in English or write it out in English. And that can cause problems because if I'm trying to give you instructions or you're trying to explain to me something you don't understand and you don't know the right words, or and I can't figure out what's going on and you can't either, then it's not helpful. So I just want to take today and go over kind of like ways to say mathematical expressions. All right. This might feel really elementary, and if it does, that's okay. Just bear with me. For those of you who don't know this, that's okay too. That's why I decided to go over this. All right, so let's start out. So this is going to be over. That's too small. I'm going to use. Okay. So I'm just calling this lesson Mathematical Expression Vocabulary. All right, and we're going to start out with just learning some basic vocabulary words that are used for mathematics, and then we're going to apply them to expressions and mathematical equations to get more and more complex. All right, so the first thing I want to start out with is sum. Can anyone tell me what is a sum? It's when you add, right? So the sum is the total amount when you add two or more numbers. So if you're talking to me or to someone else or to your child when they're working on homework and the directions say find the sum, we know that they're wanting your child to add. Or your future students. A lot of you are elementary ed majors, so your future students will use that as well. All right, the next word I want to talk about is product. Does anyone know what the word product means? That, you know, when they say you could hear a pin drop, I don't really think that's what they meant. Okay, product. Anybody want to volunteer what a product is? It is when you multiply. There you go. So the total amount when you multiply two or more numbers together. So the next one we're going to talk about is the cube of a number. And this is when you take any number. So I'm going to put any number. Actually, let me use just this number symbol. Maybe that would help. Any number, and it is to the exponent 3. Another way to say this is some number to the third power. Or you can say a number to the third power. There's one more special name for when you use an exponent. The square of a number is when you take a number to the second power. So we have number squared or a number to the second power. Once you get past 3, From that point on, there's no special names for the exponents. It's just something to that power. So for example, 2 to the 4th power, or 3 to the 8th power, or 1 to the 1,000th power. Okay? So once you get past 3, it's just you just use the number. All right, any questions about these words before I erase them and put up the last one? Okay. All right, so. And there was a flood. I hope no one's car leaks. It's going to be bad when you go out there. All right, so there are a lot of words used to describe division, addition, subtraction, and multiplication. Okay? I'm going to just name a couple, and then you guys tell me any that you can think of that aren't up there. And if there are any that you think of, that's fine. Just say, and I'm sure we'll run into more as we do examples. So some common words used for division are over, such as 4 over 2. So if you want to divide 4 divided by 2, a lot of times people will say 4 over 2. And that's because when you write it as a fraction, it looks like this. So the 4 is literally over the 2. Another way is just to say divided by, which is definitely the most clear and straightforward. And of course, such as 4 divided by 2. So a quotient, that's what you call the result of division. So that's a good point, I'll write it here. So the quotient, oh, that, never mind, I don't want to write it like that. Sorry, Kiara, I'm going to get it in your space again. All right, so the quotient is the answer of a division problem. And I'll get out of the way here in a minute so you have to write this down. So for example, 4 divided by 2 is equal to 2. This 2 right here, this is your quotient. Any other words you guys can think that you've heard or seen used to describe division? I'm trying to think if there's any more I can think of. Over, divided by. I can't think of any more. Those are the names that I've heard. All right, for addition, we have plus, which I think hopefully everyone here is familiar with. So 4 plus 2 is the same thing. Okay, that. Something that we'll see a lot of in our, or not a lot of, but some of in our examples tonight is gonna be more than. So if I say 4 more than 2, that's the same thing as saying that. 4 more than 2. For subtraction, we have minus. So 4 minus 2. We have less than. Okay, so this is where it gets tricky for less than. So I'm going to pause and let you guys catch up before I talk about that one. Mm-hmm. That's a good one. I don't have that. Let me write that down here. That's a good one. All right, so for less than, what you want to do, so if we were to say 4 minus 2, but using the word less than, you would say 2 less than 4. All right, so it's very important that you get the order right. So 2 less than 4. And then using the one that Rebecca gave us, 4 take away 2. I have heard takeaway a lot when my brother was like in 1st and 2nd grade and they were doing it with objects. So when they're teaching subtraction concepts, they say, okay, what's 4 take away 2? And they would literally have 4 objects in front and they would take 2 away. So, good one. All right, multiplication. Probably the most common one is times. So 4 times 2. And honestly, I can't think of any more for multiplication. So if you guys have any, feel free to share. That's the most common. I guess you could say multiplied by, 4 multiplied by 2. But that's wordy, but it's definitely an option. Multiplied by. So 4 multiplied by 2. All right, does anyone have anything they would like to add to any of these 4 categories?
Is the answer, or is the product the answer to the multiplication?
Yes.
Like how the division question was.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the product is the answer to the multiplication problem. Since we're talking about the names for the answers, so this technically goes here. Addition, the sum is the answer to the addition problem. Let me see if I can squeeze this in here. Sum is the answer to the addition problem. And to be honest, I don't know of any special name for the result of a subtraction problem. I can't think of any. If you guys know one, feel free to share. I don't know why division, addition, and multiplication are so darn special, but they get their own name. Or maybe subtraction special. He's the only one left out. All right, any questions about the meaning of any of these words before we start doing examples? Okay, All right, I'm gonna erase this here, and we'll start working through some examples. Alrighty. All right, so for the first part, we're going to convert mathematical expressions to words. You can if you want, it's up to you. If you want to write them down, you can, you don't have to. All right, so we want to know in English. So if any of you guys are bilingual or trilingual, please do not bring your French back to me on your homework. I won't know if it's right. All right, so in English, how would we say this mathematical expression? Anybody can just, what do you guys think? I think I heard
X squared.
X squared. Yep. X squared. So since we have this exponent up here, so in the definitions we said a number, but it can also be a letter. So here our base is an X. So written in English, this is X squared. On your homework, I have you translate mathematical expressions to English. In English, I want you guys to spell it out like this. Okay? All right, there's another way we can say this. Actually, there's two other ways to say this. Can somebody tell me the other way? X to the second power, that's right. So another way to say this is X to the second power. Oh, there's a third one. I forgot about the third one on my test. All right, so there's actually four. There's two more. All right, for my peoples that haven't answered, you got any guesses? Unfortunately, they stole the easy ones. So. All right, what about, I'll help you guys here. X times X. Because that's what X squared means, right? X times X. And then the last one, you can also say, and we didn't cover this before, but you can also say the square of X. Well, yeah, you don't have to use it. You can pick the ones you like. My goal is if someone comes up to you and describes something, you be like, okay, I know like what you're saying. And somebody might feel the need to say this. Mariah's like, why? All right, so these are the only ones I can think of. There's probably more, but let's see. X squared, X times X. X is, nope, don't have anything. If I think of anything later, I'll let you know. All right, are we good with this one before we move on to the next one? All right, okay, I'm gonna leave the sentence part here. So in English, how would we say, Jayden, I saw your mouth twitch. Does that mean you want to give an answer?
A squared minus B.
There you go, a squared minus b squared. Ooh, there's one more. We didn't cover this word, so. All right, does anybody else have any?
The difference of a squared and b squared?
The difference of a squared, the difference of, yes, the difference of a squared and b squared. Okay, so remember how I was saying that I don't know why subtraction's been outcast and doesn't have a special name? Well, I forgot about this name. That's the name for the result of subtraction. So difference is the name for the answer to a subtraction problem. And does anyone else have any other ideas how this could be said? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, a squared take away b squared. A squared take away b squared. Okay, all right, so let's move on to the next one. So how would we say this is where it starts getting long. All right, I'll give you guys the first one. All right, you could say the quantity x minus 1. That's not how you spell my name. Times the quantity x plus 2. Whenever you see the word quantity in front, that usually means what follows is grouped together. All right, so let me write that up here. Not only for clarity, but also so it'll be on the video. So if you see the word quantity, it usually means what follows it is grouped together. All right, so here you can see that the quantity x minus 1, and here we have parentheses around x minus 1, so we know that's grouped together, times, we know these are multiplied together, so that's where we get the times, the quantity x plus 2, and x plus 2 is also grouped together. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and give you a second one. Won't make you guess the second one because it's These are kind of long. You could also say the difference of x minus 1 multiplied by the sum of x and 2. This second option is not going to be used very often in like everyday speech because obviously it's a mouthful. You're more than likely going to hear the third option, which is the shortest, x minus 1 times x plus 2. For this, when you're speaking, this is like math etiquette when you're talking math. Whenever you're speaking, use your voice to group, okay? So like x minus 1, pause. What that does to the listener is it tells them that that is a unit in and of itself, all right? So x minus 1 times, and then you pause again, because that shows them that another grouping is starting, x plus 2. So x minus 1 times x plus 2. This is part math, part speech therapy. But I bet you never had a math class like this before, so. All right, okay, so let's look at another example. Oh, this one's your turn. Okay, so you guys do this one and tell me, there's at least 2 different ways to say it, so I'm gonna ask 2 different people. How would you say that in English? She's back in English class. I felt so bad when I was writing this notes, and I was like, oh, because she's last week, that she don't like English. All right, okay, Summer, let's start with you. Tell me how you wrote this in English. So x plus y times 6 plus x. All right, Lisa, did you have an alternative way to write it in English?
The quantity.
Okay, the quantity.
X plus y times the quantity of 6.
Times the quantity of 6 plus x. All right, Mariah, do you have one that was different?
The difference of x plus y.
Difference, you mean sum?
Yeah.
Sum, the sum, yep. The sum of x plus y.
Multiplied by
6
6 plus x.
I'm writing symbols. 6 plus. Okay. All right, Taylor, did you have a different one?
No, I wrote it the same section.
Okay. Did you have a different one? Okay. Anybody else have a different one? Instead of calling them people individually. Is there any others that people chose? Okay. All right. So now we're going to start looking about how to express things that have division in them. So I'm going to go ahead and let's look at how would we say in English all right, so just like in all the other examples, there are multiple different ways to say this. The main thing you want to do whenever you are talking about division is make sure that what's in the numerator is clearly defined and made obvious from what's in the denominator. So numerator's top, denominator's bottom. And if you have trouble remembering that, when I was in school, they told me numerator started with N, so it meant north, and denominator started with D, so it meant down, and that's how they told me to remember it. So, however, float your boat. But that's the main thing. Make sure that it's very clear. With division, it's super easy to say it incorrectly, whereas you're not really sure where the dividing is, okay? So for this one way to say this that makes it very clear is the quantity x times y to the fourth divided by the quantity 2 times x. Using the word the quantity in front is going to be the best way to clearly define where the division sign goes. Once you guys have that written down, I'm going to show you why that matters. All right, so let's say that someone's reading you a math problem and I tell you, I want you to solve 2 times 3 divided by 5 times 4. Okay, so when if someone was to tell me that, I would be like, okay, I don't know what you mean. And the reason I would say that is because I could interpret that as 5 times 3 divided by 2 times 4. I could interpret that as 5 times 3 divided by 2 times 4. Or I can interpret that as 5 times 3 divided by 2 times 4. All right, so all of these can be said the same way. 5 times 3 divided by 2 times 4. A lot of times, native English speakers will use their voice to kind of tell you where to start and stop. But as you get into the professional world, you will work with people that do not speak English as a native language. And if you guys aren't familiar with interacting with people who don't speak English as a native language, you're going to learn their intonation is not the same. So they're not going to use those pauses that we as English speakers rely on in order to know what they mean. All right? So that's why it's important to be super clear. Okay? So the quantity is the easiest way to do that. All right, but I will give you one other option. You could say, well, let's see, what's another way to say that? That's what you could say, x times y to the 4th power all over 2 times x. Whenever you do that all over, it implies that everything before it is in the numerator and everything after it is in the denominator. Any questions about this before you guys try one on your own? Taylor, you know you're next. That's why you gave me that look like she's gonna ask me.
I did, that's why.
Do you have any questions before you're subjected to the questioning?
No, I think.
Okay, all right, so this is the one I want you guys to write. All right, find me a couple ways to say this expression. You can help her. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. All right, Taylor, are you ready?
Yeah. I guess.
Okay, tell me what you got.
2x plus 3 all over 8 minus y.
2x plus 3 all over 8 minus
Y.
y. Yes, that will work. Yes. So 2x, you can say it like this. The important thing to remember is that 2x is the same thing as 2 times x. You will, me too included, whenever we start doing functions on Tuesday, I'm gonna say 2x. I'm not gonna say 2 times x. The reason I'm talking about 2 times x here is because I want you guys to realize that that's what the 2x means. Mathematicians just shorten it because that's a lot of words to say. All right, Rebecca, do you have a different one? Or did you give yours to Taylor? Not saying you come up on your own. I'm just.
You did say 2 times x, remember?
Yeah,
I didn't
two
write
times
that.
x.
Okay.
I
2.
did that. I said 8 minus take away y, all over 8 minus take away y.
Okay, we can do that. So we'll leave 2x plus 3 all over 8 take away y. I'll throw one of my, well, actually, let's see. Rachel, do you have one?
The quantity 2x plus 3 from the quantity 8 minus 5.
All right, good. Quantity 8 minus y. All right, Jayden, do you have a different one? Okay, tell us what your sounds like.
Kind of the same as hers, it's just the same, instead of over the quantity, it's just divided by the quantity.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly good. So here we have, I'm gonna abbreviate quantity as QUAN, 2x plus 3 divided by the quantity 8 minus y. And there's one more that I thought of that I won't write down, but I'll just say it out loud. You could say the sum of 2x and 3 all over the difference of 8 minus y. Another option. All right, okay, so Kara, we're gonna skip to example 6.
Okay.
All right, so now let's look at this one. All right, so we need to know how to say this expression here. I forgot to put this in your definition, so that's why we're making sure we're doing it. All right, whenever you have something underneath this, I don't even know how to, like little hook looking thing, this is called the square root. All right, so what this says, or one of the ways to say it, because there's several just like always, is the square root of A times B squared. So anytime you see this symbol and it has some number or letter underneath it, you say the square root. Can someone tell me what's the square root of 25? 5. All right, so the square root takes a number. And if you were putting your calculator, what it does is it tells you what number multiplied by itself gives you the original. So we know that 5 times 5 is 25. So the square root of 25 is 5. All right, okay, so then let's look at, I'm only gonna do one example for that one. So what if we wanna say in English, this? All right, so Dallas and Tanya, I'm gonna put you together on this one. Do you guys, knowing what we've done so far, can you tell me how I might say just that portion of the expression? Just this portion right here. How can I say that in English? Is there one of you got a guess? Okay, square root of m and n. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the thing about and is it's not wrong. You will hear people say that. It's just a little vague. So generally it would be better to say m times n. Well, like I said, people will say the square root of m and n. Okay. All right. So then we'll come back up here and I'll group Summer, Lisa, and Mariah. Any idea about how to say in English that portion of the expression?
Just say the quantity of M plus N cubed.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you could say the quantity of M plus N cubed. So I'm gonna go and put the plus here. All right, I'm gonna write out another way to say this as well. This is another way to say it. The square root of the product of M and N, because M and N are multiplied together, plus the sum of M and N cubed. In fact, it would be better to put a comma there. The comma does help clarify that it's M plus N cubed and not M plus N cubed, all right? Again, this is another place where if you wanted to write the quantity of M plus N cubed, that would work as well. Writing mathematics clearly is not a science that you can just like say, do this always and it's going to be clear. There might be times when people ask you questions and that's fine. The goal is just to communicate as well as possible the first time, then it minimizes their confusion. You know, you want as few questions as possible, okay? You want them to have some idea of what you're talking about, even if it's not a perfect idea. All right, and then I have one for you guys to do. Kind of like combines everything. So, how would we say in English this? All right, so anybody can volunteer. What did you guys get? I mean, if nobody volunteers, I have to pick somebody. Okay, Rachel, go ahead.
Negative A times B times C all over, or all divided by the sum of A and B.
Yep, very good. So we know that all these numbers are multiplied, so we can say negative A, or the quantity negative A times B times C divided by the sum of A plus B. Did anybody get anything different?
I just put negative A, B, C all over A plus B.
Okay.
Negative
A, yes. That would, that would work, because it's, since you say them together, it's assumed that they're multiplied. And if anyone said, okay, do you mean by A, B, C, are they multiplied? You say yes, and that's good. Yep. Any others?
Negative A, B, C, the 5 times negative A plus B.
That's good too. All right, okay. Any questions about translating from expressions to words? Because we're about to go the other way. We're about to translate from words to expressions. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go from words to expressions. All right. All right. All right, so we want to write this as a mathematical expression. X minus 3, comma, divided by y. So here the comma is important. The comma is what tells us what's in the numerator versus what's in the denominator. So that means that x minus 3 is what's in our numerator, and y is what's in our denominator. You guys will be happy to know there's only one answer for these. There's not like 4. All right, let's look at another one. What if we have y subtracted from 8 times x? All right, I'm going to write 2 options up here. I'm going to label them 1 and 2, and we're going to take a vote. So everyone read them, and then we'll take a vote. How many people think 1 is correct? Okay, so you, okay. Anybody else think 1 is correct before I move on to 2?
1.
Okay. Are you still thinking, Taylor?
I'm confused with like 2.
Okay. All right. So how many people vote for 2? Dallas, you didn't vote. He's like, I'm sitting in the back, totally not going to notice. There's only 10 people in here. Do you vote 1 or 2? And Jayden, I don't think he voted either. You voted for 2? Okay.
I changed my mind.
Nope, final answer. Okay, it is 2. All right, the reason it's 2 because it says y subtracted from. Okay, y is subtracted from 8 times x. So whenever you use the subtracted from, what's actually being subtracted goes at the end. So we're taking away y, right?
Okay, what? Oh, okay.
So you could rewrite this, another way to write
Flip
it.
them around.
You could say 8x, take away y. These are the same thing.
Okay. So the first one would be 8x subtracted from 1. So 2 is the right one.
2 is the right one. Mhm. And what Tanya was saying is correct. How you would read this in English would be 8x subtracted from y.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and write another one up here. All right, I kind of like the voting thing, so we're gonna keep doing that. All right, I have 3 options. So take a second to read that. All right, how many people think it's 1? Who votes for 1? Okay, how many people think it's 2? Okay. And I'm assuming the rest of you either don't know or you think it's 3. Okay.
No.
All right, so the key to this problem is the word product. Product means what? The multiply, okay? The product is the result of multiplication. So when it says the product of C and D, we know that it automatically has to be either 1 or 2, because they're the only ones where C and D are multiplied. So the next thing we want to look at is the 2 times. We know that times also means multiply. So here, 2 is added, but we don't want that. We want 2 times. So this is your correct answer. Who knew it was so tricky, right? But that's the reason why I'm doing this, because a lot of students do struggle with it. Okay, all right, let's look at another one here. This one's more straightforward. All right, 1 or 2 for b over 35 squared. Or really, actually, there's a third one I thought. Yeah, I'll leave it. All right, how many people vote for 1? Everybody, good. Okay, because that's right. Because over means divided. Okay. The one I was going to add that I wish I would have thought of right away, don't get confused between squared and times 2. So make sure that you don't write something like this, because 35 squared and 2 times 35 are very different. This number is 70. This number is around 1,000. Somewhere around there. All right, okay. Let's see. All right, so this is the last one, so it's gonna be a doozy, but you guys can do it. All right, write the square root of the quantity x plus 5 over x to the 5th power. All right, there are your 3 options. You guys ready to vote? Okay, who votes 1? Okay, who votes 2? And who votes 3? All right, it is 2. Very good. All right, so someone tell me, how did you know it was 2 and not 3? Quantity, very good, awesome. Yes, the fact that it said the square root of the quantity signified that x plus 5 is grouped, so it all must be under the square root. Excellent, that's what I was hoping to communicate today, so I'll consider that a success. All right, so your homework is a little bit different, so I wanted to explain it to you. So we are 5 weeks away from the final, okay? So what I'm trying to do is incorporate review into as many lessons as I can. That way it helps you review for the final. So on your homework, I'll hand it out here in a minute. In fact, let me hand it out first and then I can talk about it and you guys can see it at the same time. That'll probably be more helpful. All right, so for problem 1, there's 4 parts, A, B, C, and D. They are all problems based on concepts we have already covered this semester, okay? So if you need any help with them, of course, you can ask me or Mrs. Cagle, formerly known as Ms. Gomez, or you can look in your notes, okay? At the bottom of part A, you'll notice it says solution in bold, and A equals, whatever you get for that solution, right next to A equals. You're gonna follow that procedure for all 4 parts of number 1. So that way, when you get to number 2, and I'll read out number 2 together, it says, translate the following from words to a mathematical expression. Let A and B be our variables. Okay. So the sum of 2 times A and B divided by 3. All right, so it says the sum of 2 times A and B. Let me erase this here. So we know since we have the sum, we know that A has to be added to B. And it also says 2 times A. So we know we're going to have a 2 in front. It says divided by 3. So this would be your answer to 2A. Then on 2B, it says use the answers from 1A and 1B to find the solution. So I don't know what the answers are to 1A and 1B, okay? But whatever you get, you're gonna take your expression, you're gonna plug those numbers in for A and B, and then solve it with your calculator. So and just to be extra clear, say that A was equal to 1 and B was equal to 2. These are not the real answers. They're just ones I made up, okay? You take A, plug it in for A, so 2 times 1 plus B all over 3. And then you just work that out. And that would be whatever this is, which is 4/3. This would be your answer for 2B. All right, so if you have any questions, feel free to stay, but you're free to go, and I will see you on Tuesday. If you need any help with the homework, make sure and just let me know.